draft. He played 4 years with the Magic before signing with the Lakers as a free agent in 1996. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. If we care enough. If we care enough. If we care enough. If we care enough.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm thrilled to have you hanging out with us in this hour of our program today. A quick story rather about that song from Stevie. So Miles, as you know, you hear me call his name all the time. Miles is my board op, and Miles and I were talking during the break about what song we were going to start the hour with. And I said, well, we're talking to Ed Dwight and Bernard Harris in this hour, 2 pioneering African Americans in space. So we should probably start with, something that is, space oriented. And of course, there's always Rocket from Herbie Hancock. And so Miles says to me, I wonder if there's a song about space and love. Is there a song about space and love? And leave it to Stevie Wonder to answer the question for us. And it works, Miles, it works. I was just laughing. Stevie's corpus is just his body of work is just so amazing. I can't imagine anything under the love umbrella that Stevie has not written about, has not sung about. He's the GOAT. Stevie is absolutely the GOAT. And so we were literally trying to think of a song that would weave space and love and enter rocket love from one Stephen Morris. We love you, Stevie Wonder, on Valentine's Day, any day, every day. We love Stevie Wonder. That said, speaking of love and space, or love for space, in this hour, 2 conversations. On the backside of this hour, we'll talk to Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr., the very first African-American astronaut to actually walk in space. But I am delighted to commence this hour in conversation with my dear friend and brother, Ed Dwight, as we celebrate Black History Month. This African-American space pioneer joins us now to talk about Nat Geo's The Space Race documentary saluting black astronauts. Before I get Ed on the phone, let me tell you a quick bit about this Nat Geo documentary film project. It's called The Space Race, and it uncovers the little-known stories of the first black pilots, engineers, and scientists who became astronauts. The documentary weaves together the stories of black astronauts seeking to break the bonds of social injustice to reach for the stars, including Guyon Bluford, Charles Bolden, and our guest right now, Ed Dwight, who I'm pleased once again to welcome to this program. Ed Dwight, it's been too long, my friend. How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good there, Tavis. It has been a long time, my friend.
Hey, it's been a while.
Too long.
Yeah, it's too long, but I'm glad to hear your voice. Glad to hear your voice. I know you've been asked this question countless times, and people will see some of this, of course, in the doc series, this film, The Space Race on Nat Geo. But just tell me right quick. I know the story, but let the audience be reminded of the role you played in this race to space, where black folk are concerned, and what John F. Kennedy was attempting to do when he reached out to you. Just tell me the story again right quick.
Well, this whole idea started, people think that Kennedy was just being gratuitous to even talk about this idea about black astronauts, but he needed the black vote, to make a long story short.
John Kennedy needed the black vote, is your point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, he had no connection to the black community. I mean, he didn't know Dr. King, and he was scared to death of it. As a matter of fact, he was scared to death of Dr. King, to tell you the truth. I find that that's this thing moving along. But anyway, Whitney Young intervened at the right time when all the black leadership was Kennedy called Harry Belafonte, who was the only black guy he knew, and said to him, hey, look, how do I get the black vote? And he says, I can't guarantee you the black vote, but I can hook you up with people that can, and that's how the whole thing started, okay? And the thing started not with it, but pie in the sky, the talk about having the astronaut. That didn't even end the thing. But Kennedy wanted to know, and he asked these four guys, what can I do to encourage you to get the black vote? And Whitney came, went on last and said, hey, we need black engineers and scientists. We don't have any. And our smart black kids that could qualify to be engineers and scientists, these top-notch schools are not accepting them because they came out of black education. And he said, we got 4 military academies, and I can populate these military academies, get these smart black kids in them, graduate, and then for their graduate degrees, those schools cannot turn them down. And the question was, how do we do it? And Whitney said, make me a black astronaut and give him to me. And that's how the whole thing started. And so with that promise, Kennedy tried to renege on the promise, to tell you the truth. It was Whitney's persistence, calling him every week, where's my black astronaut? Where's my astronaut? It was Negro, it wasn't a black astronaut.
My Negro astronaut, yeah. Okay, hold that thought, Ed Dwight. So Whitney Young of the Urban League, I love these backstories. So Whitney Young of the Urban League is pressing JFK to give him a black astronaut. If you want the black vote, there are a number of things you need to do, but we need black engineers, we need black scientists, we need them admitted to these academies so they won't get denied when they have these graduate degrees, so they can get into this program. We need a black astronaut. You heard Ed Dwight say that John Kennedy tried to renege on that commitment. We'll pick the story up there when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
It's time to represent your community in the 2024 presidential primary election. When you vote, you get to decide what is best for you, your neighborhood, and your family. Use your power. Make a plan to vote today. Visit plan.lavote.gov. That's plan.lavote.gov to get everything you need to vote in the March 5th presidential primary election. Brought to you by the Los Angeles County Registrar.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
City of Los Angeles landlords that own rent-controlled properties, you are now able to increase rents by 4% for your rent-controlled properties. An extra 1% per utility up to 6% can be added only if you pay the entire gas and electric bill. And don't forget to give your tenant an advance 30-day written notice for rent increases of less than 10%. It is state law. Learn more about the rent increase at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Ed Dwight, our guest at the moment, is featured in Nat Geo's project. It's a documentary film called The Space Race, which again tells the stories of these first black pilots and engineers and scientists who went on to become astronauts. So you heard Ed Dwight telling the story. I want to let him finish in a second here. So JFK's president. He's trying to get the black vote. You don't know anybody black really except Harry Belafonte, as Ed Dwight said. So he calls Belafonte. Belafonte hooks him up with some other black people, including Whitney Young at the Urban League. Whitney Young tells the president, you want the black vote. There are a number of things you can do, but one of those things is we need more black scientists. We need more black engineers. Give me a black astronaut. So what happens next, Ed Dwight? So the president promises to give a black astronaut, but you said he almost reneged on his promise. What do you mean by that?
Well, it wasn't on the early agenda, and that's what Whitney got really anxious because, you know, when you're implementing early agendas and stuff, and he just put it on the back burner.
Right.
What the president did. So finally he called up Curtis LeMay and said, how long would it take to make me a black astronaut? And Curtis LeMay tells him 5 years. And Kennedy says, that's not good enough. I want something on my desk by Friday. Yeah, and so what Kennedy did, he took the whole project and turned it over to Bobby. Turned it over to Bobby Kennedy, and Bobby executed.
Yeah,
and he was a man of action, and he executed, and he took over and started making the right phone calls to make things happen. So
how did he start? Bobby starts making the right phone calls. How did you get the phone call, Ed Dwight?
Well, no, I got a letter in the mail November 4th, 1961, asking me if I was interested in going to test pilot school en route to being the first Negro astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no. Well, are you kidding me? I had an incredible career going, and you know, I was on fast track for promotion. I had been promoted early and flying 5 airplanes on the wing staff. I mean, I had everything. That was a dream job I had up there, right near San Francisco. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better. And I thought those astronaut guys were a bunch of crazy dudes, man. I didn't want anything to do with it. And everybody advised me, stay away, Ed. They're going to make hamburger out of you, man. And that's what I was getting from all of my supervisors and people I work with every day, and everything was fine. I didn't answer until my mom got a hold of me.
Yeah.
And my mother said, "You will do this, no matter what. We need a breakthrough here, and it's good for the race and all that kind of stuff, And my problem was I wasn't racially conscious. I had totally white education.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere I went, I was the only black officer on the base, and I was not considered one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I kept getting this feedback loop of, you're not one of them. But anyway, because of my mom, I sent the stuff in, and not a week, not a month, 4 days later, I got an order shipping me to Edwards to go down to talk to Chuck Yeager to interview me for test pilot school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how long it took.
Yeah.
I went down, and Yeager didn't like it at all. I mean, it was, it was, I wasn't going to join the club.
Yeah, you're talking, of course, about Chuck Yeager, who obviously is well known in his own right. So Chuck Yeager,
right.
To your point, wasn't feeling it. He wasn't happy about it. It's being forced on him by the White House, so he ain't happy about it. And so you show up, and how does Chuck Yeager treat you?
Every possible way he could. He called all the people together and ordered them to isolate me. Don't drink with him. Don't talk to him, and he'll be gone in 6 weeks. That was the rule. And either Washington is trying to tram an N-word down our throats, and we ain't gonna have it, because what's going to happen? You let one in the door. Kennedy wants to turn the whole space program black. That would equalize slavery. All the pain in slavery, okay, making the whole astronaut program black would make it equal. Okay, and so if he comes in, all of y'all gonna lose your jobs. Is what the admonition was.
Yeah.
So we can't let that first one in.
Yeah. So your black mama, your precious mother, convinces you to do this because it's good for the race. We need a breakthrough here because of your mother. You agree to do it, but as you said earlier, Ed. Everybody else in the program had told you, Ed, don't do it. They're going to make hamburger meat out of you. Your mama said, Ed, you got to do it. So did, in fact, they make hamburger meat out of you?
Well, I didn't allow that. I mean, I excelled at everything I was challenged to do. And it kind of backfired on them, really, because think about this thing. And we got all these guys, 17 guys in this class and everything. And they were told to isolate me. But all of a sudden, these white boys started, wait a minute, Dwight's connected to the White House. And the system works. If I got in, if they were my friend, I could say, pull him in with me. So I had all these secret friends by the end of the program.
Yeah.
They never expected me to even graduate, and it was 17 in the class. They rated it, and I came out 7th. Out of 17, and I put that back in Yeager's face. I said that 10 white boys are below me in performance, so don't come to me with all this stuff. But he kept telling me how blacks weren't efficient. I mean, we were deficient in our intellectual capacity, and white guys could do it better. And I came back to him. I said, Colonel Yeager, I said, every street at Edwards Air Force Base is named after a dead test pilot, and they were all white guys. I said, so don't come to me talking to me about how white guys are so inferior to black guys. That don't make sense.
That's why I love Ed Dwight, man. He just keeps it real. He keeps it real. So as it turns out, you did that. You graduated successfully from the program, but you never did quite become that black astronaut. Why not?
The president got killed.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. Everything changed. The day after, no, it wasn't the day after, we were in Seattle going through training in in Seattle, and he got killed at 11 o'clock California time, and that was the end of the story because the whole thing, everything stopped, and they shipped us back to Edwards. Man, I went to work Monday, and had orders shipping me out of the country, and that's how fast the forces of darkness jumped in there. So here's our opportunity. Dwight's got to go. Yeah. And so Bobby Kennedy, I flew to Washington. Bobby Kennedy killed those orders, And by the time I got back to Edwards, I had another set of orders when I got back shipping me to Canada, and I was going to be the official liaison for the Canadian space program, American liaison. And Canada didn't have a space program, and Germany didn't have a space program. But I was shipped away, and so the President Johnson had to come up with some kind of way because he wanted his own black astronaut. He didn't want to be stuck with me. Yeah. Because I was making speeches. There was controversy associated with some of those speeches, and so Johnson said, "Wait a minute, I'm not going to do this. I got to have my own guy." Yeah. So I got called in, and they explained it to me, and they asked me to help them find my replacement.
And what'd you do? What'd you do?
No, I did. They promised me, the president promised me, hey, look, you are going into space, Captain Dwight, but you got to work with us on this thing here. We got to find a guy, our guy, and when he graduates, when he gets into space and comes back, then we're going to swing you back into the program, but you're guaranteed a space mission. And that's the only reason I did it, because I actually believe these guys, But I wrote an 11-page report to the president for my replacement, man, and Bob Lawrence was the guy that they found. And they followed my instructions all the way through. He had to be taller than me, he had to be darker than me, he had to have the highest rank possible. And they promoted him to major, got him a PhD in astronautics and stuff. And so I say he's got to be beyond the doubt. He's got to be any credentials. This guy has got to be. He's got to exceed that requirement, and that's what they did.
And what do you did what they asked you to do? And what do you make of the fact that they lied to you? You said you did it because you believed them. They lied to you. They never circled back to you, and so you never got to be a black astronaut walking in space. How do you process that all these years later?
Well, that was another thing that happened in the meantime, because I had no intention of getting out of the military, man. I was just going to ride it out. Yeah. Because I was one of these 30-year guys, man. I left Tavis because they tried to kill me. That's why I left. And then I found out about that. And then they brought charges against me with 21 years in a stockade. And Bobby Kennedy stepped up to that as well. He said, "You're not going to send this man to jail." And they brought charges, 21 years in stockade, and the reason why they brought charges against me because I was talking to senators, I was talking to congressmen, I was going in and out of Congress and in and out of the White House and everything. And you can't do that as a junior officer in the military. It's against the law. And so those are the charges they brought against me, and I was actually fearing for my life. I went down to the flatline. I guess they did, they want us to kill you, and I thought it was some kind of joke, but it wasn't a joke. And that's when I resigned. And when that's when I resigned, they brought all these charges against me.
What's also that wasn't a joke, and what's also not a joke is that you got the last laugh. And I said you got the last laugh because while that did not work out the way they told you it was going to work out, they did attempt, as you said earlier, they attempted to make hamburger meat out of you. You weren't going to have it. But when all is said and done, while you're featured in this Nat Geo doc called The Space Race, and people are learning more about that particular part of your backstory, what the world knows you for is being one of the greatest sculptors who ever lived. You are renowned the globe over for being such an amazing sculptor. So in many respects, Ed Dwight, you got the last laugh, did you not?
I did. My mom was one of the most incredible people in the world. Her whole thing was about service, man, and about doing, providing and giving back. And once, Tavis, I didn't know who Harriet Tubman was until I was 42 years old, man. I had no idea what Black History was till George Brown, our first Black Lieutenant Governor of Colorado, schooled me. Says, Dwight, you run around with all this astronaut stuff, That's something the Black community needs. One of the things, we've been here 300 years, Ed, and do you know you cannot go to a city park, a town square, a museum, a gallery, or anything and find anything Black people did in this country. And when he said that, I said, well, what did they do? And that's when I found out about slavery and Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. I had no idea these people existed, man. And and so I was charged with a new mission, and the mission was I got to tell the story about what Black people did in America to make America great, the country that it is. And I've done 132 public art and memorial pieces since I started doing this stuff, man. And so it's in order to spread the word and tell the story, and it's worked. These memorials are gigantic, huge, and they tell a story. And that's my mission.
It hasn't just worked, Ed Dwight. You are way too modest, my friend and my brother. It hasn't just worked. It has worked remarkably well. And let me just say, there is no artist in the history of this country, no sculptor in the history of this country who has done the heavy lifting, the righteous work that this brilliant sculptor Ed Dwight has done to tell our story artistically. You heard him say a moment ago, I was about to go there, 132 sculptures, projects that he sculpted all around this country, 132 of them that tell the story. And Ed's stuff, you can Google him and see his stuff, Ed Dwight. When you see his stuff, it's massive. These aren't small pieces. He does these larger-than-life pieces, but all across this country, 132 of them that tell the story of the contributions that African Americans have made to this country. I say all the time, quoting Du Bois, would America have been America without her Negro people? The answer, of course, is no. But Ed Dwight has done more than anybody else in this space of telling that story, even though they tried to diss him. But he gets the last laugh, and we're all the beneficiaries of it because we can see with his artistic genius the story of our contribution to this country. And for that, in Black History Month and beyond, Ed Dwight, I say thank you. I love you, my friend, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. I just love you, Ed.
Thanks.
All right, you stay strong.
I really appreciate it.
You stay strong, my friend. Ed Dwight on Tavis Smiley. When we come forward, you heard Ed's story. Ed didn't quite get there. But the first African-American astronaut who did walk in space is my friend Dr. Bernard A. Harris, Jr. And we'll talk to him when we come forward in Black History Month on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful they saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are celebrating Black History Month in a series of ads. According to the re-election campaign, the radio, print, and digital ads will tout the promises Biden kept to Black Americans over his first term. The ads will run in several cities, including Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Detroit, Michigan. Heading into Super Bowl 58, Buffalo Wild Wings promised that if the game went into overtime, everyone gets free wings. The game did in fact go into overtime. The Chiefs Chiefs emerged victorious with the final score 25-22. That means come Monday, February 26th from 2 until 5 p.m. in local time zones, all dine-in and in-person takeout orders will be gifted one free order of wings per customer. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Why are people saying "Hew yeah" to Jackson Hewitt? When you switch to Jackson Hewitt, they will beat what you paid last year on tax prep, even if you filed online. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers had a carefree game last night against Detroit. They won by 14 at Crypto.com. 25 points and 8 assists for LeBron. Anthony Davis had 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 block shots. The Lakers are at Utah tonight. Last game for the Lakers and Clippers before the All-Star break. The Clippers are at Golden State tonight. A special moment for Shaquille O'Neal last night in Orlando. Shaq's number 32 jersey was retired by the Orlando Magic. He's the first Orlando player in the franchise's 35-year history to have his number retired. Shaq joins Wilt Chamberlain and Pete Maravich as the only NBA players to have their number retired by 3 teams. The Lakers retired Shaq's number 34. Miami retired his number 32. Orlando chose Shaq with the number 1 pick in the 1992 draft. He played 4 years with the Magic before signing with the Lakers as a free agent in 1996. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to broaden your political and moral imagination with our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte with the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial. In a public opinion survey commissioned by KBLA Talk 1580 and conducted by Viteris, the black voters surveyed were highly enthusiastic about the March 2024 primary. The race for Los Angeles District Attorney is being hotly contested. Incumbent DA George Gascon's efforts to implement progressive criminal justice reforms have generated pushback from within his own office, the broader law enforcement community, and some in the general public. He was the subject of at least 2 failed attempts to qualify recalls. The concerns about crime are reflected in the polling results of black voters. Nearly 1 in 4 have been victims of violent crime or have someone close to them who has been a victim. 1 in 5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or 2 ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of DA Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
How amazing was that conversation with Ed Dwight? I've talked to Ed Dwight more times in my life than I can count, and I never get bored talking to him and hearing his stories about how he was supposed to be the first black astronaut to walk in space. Didn't quite work out that way, but man, has he acquitted himself nicely as our preeminent sculptor. 132 pieces telling the story of the black contribution to this country. I had Ed on in this hour, and I'm delighted to introduce our next guest in just a second here. One of them on in this hour. One is Black History Month. Of course, I do Black History every day around here. But in this month, I wanted to draw attention to things that I think you ought to be aware of. And so this beautiful Nat Geo documentary film is called The Space Race. It uncovers the little-known stories of the first black pilots, engineers, and scientists who became astronauts. The doc weaves together the stories of black astronauts seeking to break the bonds of social injustice as they reached for the stars, including people like Guyon Bluford, Ed Dwight, and Charles Bolden, to name a few. There are many others in this piece, including Dr. Bernard A. Harris, Jr., who was, in fact, the very first African-American, is, in fact, the very first African-American astronaut to walk in space. Bernard, I'm delighted to have you on this program. And let me just start with this. You come into this doc talking first and foremost about how the game might have changed, how things might have been different had John F. Kennedy not been murdered, had LBJ kept his promise, had Ed Dwight become the first. Things might have been different. How might things have been different, Bernard Harris? Bernard, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Bernard? I'm not hearing Bernard. Bernard is there. Let's get Miles to figure this out right quick. What a beautiful show it's been. And now all of a sudden the devil is a lie, as we say. Bernard, the devil is a lie. Bernard Harris, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Hey, it's good to hear you, man. I couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I could. I feel like NASA now. Are you ready for the event, Bernard Harris? Are you ready for the? Are you ready for the event? The event will commence in 5, 4, 3, 2. You hear my question, Bernard? Or shall I repeat it? Did you hear it?
I did.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
I heard you loud and clear, and I wanted to say how wonderful it is to be on your show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity. So how would things have been different? You know, I'm a kid of the 60s, and as a kid of the 60s, I watched the space program right before my eyes, but I didn't see too many of us. And in fact, none of us until I started working with NASA some years later. If I had seen an Ed Dwight or a Guy Bluford, you know, ahead of me during that period of time, it would have changed my trajectory in a sense that I would not have had to brave the, some of the trails that I had to do to get to do what I did. If I had seen a black man go to the moon, just imagine that. And, you know, I talk to kids all the time just about my spacewalk, you know, some 20, 30 years later. And they are just amazed. And I would be just like they are, just enamored to know that a black man actually walked on the moon or went into space.
Because you did not see that, because Ed Dwight, because it didn't work out for him, and you didn't get a chance to see him as that shining example, that living epistle of what in fact is possible. You didn't see it, but yet you pushed ahead anyway with your dreams, your hopes, and your aspirations. What drove that, Bernard?
Well, you know, I looked at that black and white television, which on one channel I could see the major accomplishments that we were making in the space program, and on the other channel to see us fighting for our rights to vote during that period of time. And so when I didn't see someone that looked like me, I said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. It gave me sort of the impetus to say, despite not seeing someone who looks like me, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to let that deter me. And of course, I had the support from my mother, my family, that told me that I could be and do anything that I wanted to be and do in life.
Yeah.
And that was my license.
Ed Dwight told the same story just moments ago. We just had him on. He told the same story about his mother. As you know the story, of course, that Ed wouldn't have pushed forward had his mother not convinced him that he needed to do it for his people, that we needed a breakthrough. And so never mind what Whitney Young had asked Kennedy to do. It's his mama, Ed Dwight's mother, that got him there. And so I hear you telling the story now of your mother pushing and supporting you in the process. Help me understand a little bit better, Bernard, why in that particular moment you still felt compelled to serve your country, as it were. To your point, you're watching the progress in the space race on one channel. On another channel, you see us in the streets marching and protesting and trying to get America to do right by us. In that particular moment, where a country is maltreating you and your mom and your daddy and your people, why serve it?
Oh, I'm an American. I'm a black man first, but I'm an American second. So, and as an American, I wanted to make sure that we were represented in every walk of life, including going into space. And so I took this on as my charge, my goal of making a difference. And not only making a difference for myself, but making a difference for those kids, black and white and brown, that would come behind me.
Yeah. Ed told the story earlier, Bernard, of the ugly ways that Chuck Yeager treated him when he arrived at Edwards Air Force Base to start his test pilot program. It's kind of sad to hear the way that again Chuck Yeager just maltreated Ed Dwight back then. By the time you show up some years later, are they treating Negroes any better at NASA at that point?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. When I do a presentation, I have two slides that I like to show, especially during Black History Month. I like to show a slide of the original 7 guys, right, that were selected. It's considered to be the right stuff. And then I juxtapose that with the slide of my class, with 23 diverse individuals, the first Hispanic woman, the first Asian man, the first woman to eventually become a commander and pilot of the space shuttle, and myself. It was vastly different, that contrast. So thank God NASA has evolved as this country has, or I should say evolving as this country is doing to include us, to be more inclusive.
It's a Nat Geo documentary film. It's called The Space Race. It, again, tells the story of these little-known African-Americans, these pilots, these engineers, these scientists who went on to become astronauts and forced NASA to embrace what we would call today diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr. is one of those persons, the first African-American astronaut to walk in space. We'll talk about that part when we come forward. And as I mentioned earlier, Ed Dwight got the last laugh because he has become such a renowned sculptor. And Bernard Harris is doing his own thing as well. Beyond NASA, he is has a beautiful winery. I've been there. It's an amazing winery here in California. So we'll talk about that part as well and let him brag about his winery, which you should hear about. This black man. Yeah, a black man with his own winery. We'll talk about that when we come forward with Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr., who you're listening to right now, and I'm glad about it, on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr., the first brother, the first African-American to actually walk in space. It didn't quite happen for Ed Dwight, but it did happen for us through the personhood of Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr. To the extent you can, Bernard, what is it like? I expect maybe one day I'll find out, maybe somebody else will find out. We'll all find out as we are seeing now this push toward more space travel for everyday people. But what is it like to walk in space to the extent you can define it or describe it?
Yeah. Well, let me go back with the first step, and that is getting into space.
Yeah.
So when I flew on board the space shuttle, which weighs about 5 million pounds. In order to get that into the air, it would be like 5 engines that produce a thrust of 7.5 million pounds, which means we get into space in less than 8.5 minutes at an altitude of 250 miles above the Earth, going at 17,500 miles an hour. So that sets the stage. Now,
yeah,
about 3 or 4 days after we got our mission up in orbit, orbiting the Earth, I got a chance to do a spacewalk. So imagine opening up the hatch and stepping outside for the first time, or floating outside. You know, a spacewalk is really a misnomer. We're actually pulling ourselves around. We're floating in microgravity.
Mm-hmm.
It was an incredible view to see the Earth whizzing by, or us whizzing by the Earth at 17,000 miles per hour. To look down at the beautiful Earth was incredible, and to look up above at the heavens was also fantastic. Now, as a spacewalker, we call what we do extravehicular activity, or EVA. You have to be careful in keeping your, eye and mind focus on what your activity is. And ours was to deploy a satellite and also to do some activities inside the cargo bay of the space shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I can't imagine what that feels like, but just hearing your description of it makes me want to do it. It's just to look down at Earth and to look up toward the heavens and to be just floating out there is quite an amazing story to hear. And you told it beautifully. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr., a couple other things I want to ask him. And I know I was saying a moment ago he has a winery. I know a bunch of black folk who have wines. I mean, Snoop Dogg's got wine. Everybody's got wine these days, but he has a winery. Not exactly the same thing. We'll talk about that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr. got about 4 minutes left in this conversation talking about Nat Geo's new documentary film called The Space Race, which again uncovers the little-known stories of the first black folk, these pilots, these engineers, these scientists who became astronauts and changed the game, as it were. You heard Bernard mention earlier the right stuff. Well, this is what the right stuff really looks like. And this doc gives us new heroes and new sheroes to celebrate as we look at a fresh history of the contributions that they have made to NASA, to this country, and indeed to the world, more broadly to the field of science. And for that, we are grateful. We celebrate them here in Black History Month, as Bernard Harris was the first first brother, that is, to actually walk in space As you heard me say earlier, it's not really a space walk because you got to floating, but it's called that. It's called that anyway. Let me ask you two things right quick in the time I have left. Number one, are you encouraged all these years later, 3 decades or so after your space walk? Are you encouraged? Do you see signs that encourage you with regard to people of color in the space program?
Yes, I certainly do. We now have about 24 black astronauts that have either been in the program or currently in the program. So we've made significant progress. As we expand to not only having governments going into space, but private industry involved in space, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for people who want to work in space or to travel to the moon or Mars to do that. And so I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I've been using the term, as I should, of course, throughout this hour, of the term astronauts, but I really prefer Afronauts. I like that. These guys are Afro. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, that's what we call ourselves.
Yeah.
And it reminds us of where we come from.
Yeah.
And pay homage to where we're going as a people.
No, it's a great word, Afronauts, and I'm delighted to be in dialogue with one right now, Bernard A. Harris Jr. Let me close on this note. I mentioned earlier, I'm glad Ed Dwight's life turned out the way it did. That space thing didn't quite work out, and they maltreated him in a lot of ways, but he got the last laugh, becoming one of the most renowned sculptors in the world, certainly the best at telling the story of the black contribution to America and beyond. And there's life for space after you as well with your winery. I joked earlier, I know a bunch of Negroes who have wines, but you got a winery. So in the 90 seconds I have left, I want you to brag about your winery, Bernard A. Harris Jr.
Well, believe it or not, the vineyard and winery is connected to NASA. I did my fellowship after I finished my residency in internal medicine at Mayo at Ames Research Center in the Bay Area. So it's in San Francisco. And on the weekends, I would travel up to Napa and Sonoma, and I fell in love with Sonoma. And I said, one day I would love to own some property here and to grow wine. And that's exactly what I did. 3 years ago, I bought a piece of property outside of Hillsburg, and we are making some award-winning wine.
Go ahead, give us the name. Give us the name. We want to sell some product here, man. We want to sell some product, man.
Yeah. For sure. So the viewers can go to theharrisestatevineyards.com and get to our website, and it'll direct you to where you can buy the wine.
There you go. I am honored to have been in dialogue in this hour with two Afronauts, Ed Dwight and Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr., who we owe a great debt of gratitude for being there to represent us as beautifully as they have, not just here on earth, but in Bernard's case, up into the heavens. Bernard, good to have you on, my friend. All the best to you. I'll talk to you soon, I hope.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Tavis.
Good to have you on. It's called The Space Race. It's on Nat Geo. Our program is done for the day. We did it somehow, Miles. We got that 80-pound bag, that 80-pound show, rather, in that 40-pound bag. It's done. Back here, Lord willing, tomorrow to do it all over again. Hopefully not 7 or 8 guests tomorrow. We shall see. But I enjoyed every minute of it. Hope you did as well. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are celebrating Black History Month in a series of ads. According to the re-election campaign, the radio, print, and digital ads will tout the promises Biden kept to Black Americans over his first term. The ads will run in several cities, including Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Detroit, Michigan. Heading into Super Bowl 58, Buffalo Wild Wings promised that if the game went into overtime, overtime, everyone gets free wings. The game did in fact go into overtime. The Chiefs emerged victorious with a final score 25-22. That means come Monday, February 26th from 2 until 5 p.m. in local time zones, all dine-in and in-person takeout orders will be gifted one free order of wings per customer. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Why are people saying "Hew yeah" to Jackson Hewitt? When you switch to Jackson Hewitt, they will beat what you paid last year on tax prep, even if you filed online. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers will be without LeBron James for tonight's game in Utah. The medical staff wants him to rest his sore ankle. LeBron will benefit from the extra rest with the All-Star break coming after tonight's game. Top 5 men's college basketball teams in this week's AP poll: UConn, Purdue, Houston, Marquette, and Arizona. Top 5 women's teams: South Carolina, Ohio State, Stanford, Iowa, and Texas. UCLA is 9th, USC 10th. Today's Black History Month sports moment: on May 2nd, 1968, Bill Russell became the first black head coach to lead his team to the NBA championship. Russell led the Boston Celtics over the Lakers in the NBA Finals. The Celtics won the series 4-2. Russell is one of only 8 basketball players to win an NBA title, an NCAA championship, and an Olympic gold medal. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means